Hello everyone. So today I would like to return to the notion of transitional space because this notion is very important. It is important in the history of depth psychology and psychoanalysis, starting from the work of Donald Winnicott, which is still very influential today, not only in theory but in the practice of many therapists and psychologists. Also cultural critics. And as I will try to show you, transitional space can very much be given a Jungian twist, a twist that interests us from the perspective of psychological types. We might probably, at least in this video, take the example of NI dominance, partly because this is a type I know best, but also because it is a type that is very represented on this channel. But nothing prevents us in future from applying the notion to other types. But you will see in this video that already a lot can be learned from the example of NI dominance. Okay? Now, I just want to mention before we start that giving me a like helps with the referencing, and it costs you nothing, just a click. My referencing has been, for some reason, YouTube, the algorithm has been funny of late and my views have been affected. So please give me a like. And don't forget that you can join my Patreon. In fact, I have a whole deep dive, those long format videos specifically exclusively for patrons. I have one on transitional space, a half an hour discussion. So that and access to our Discord server, that's another perk. And you help me massively. The first link below is to my Patreon page. These are not easy times. I could not do this without you. Please consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you. So, transitional space. You might have heard me talk about interstices as well, right? I'm talking about those fissures in the fabric of reality that a person, such as an NI dominant, can invest, sort of penetrate, thereby experiencing a surge of energy and meaningfulness in their life. And that happens not simply at the level of an overarching vision of what their life could be, but also on an everyday basis. Because let's not lie to ourselves. The way in which we encounter, find meaning and purpose in our life. And by the way, you know that this book, The Infinite Soul, linked below as well, explores all these notions from the point of view of the INFJ. I recommend you read it. Get it and read it, The Infinite Soul. It's a matter of everyday practice. How many people would read an article that seems to answer so many deep questions, and they feel very excited, sometimes very elated, only to realize further down the line, the day after, that they have to face all these daily issues that are just coming back, recurring, because that's in their nature, and they kind of they have quickly the effect of flattening those initially sort of grand aspirations, because they are just a reminder of what sometimes can be experienced as the flattening dullness of everyday life. So the ability to find, if you like, sort of nooks and crannies and corners of meaningfulness in the everyday world is really what we want to do. And interstices serve this function. But I want to now add that interstices are, in fact, always, if you like, gates of access into transitional space. When we invest an interstice, whatever type we are, depending on what the type we are, an interstice will look different. That's just a way of saying that whatever, depending on the type that we are, the way in which we invest transitional space will have a different texture, a different color, a different sound, different timbre, okay? So what is transitional space? Transitional space is a space where we relate to the world with two particular features, okay? A suspension of belief and a suspension of disbelief, okay? When we tend to interact in the everyday world, right? What we do is we suspend belief, right? And that's, in fact, the source of the disenchantment of the real world as opposed to the world of our imagination, our imaginary, and our fantasies. That's pulsating with meaning. The reality, the harshness, the sort of dreamless quality of pure adaptation to the necessities and exigencies of life in the world can be sort of summarized in adaptation seems to be just about suspending our belief, right? It's like, I'm not allowed to believe in ghosts, I'm not allowed to believe in the supernatural. Those are supposed to be immature themes. I'm not supposed to believe in hidden meanings or whatever. It's like, if you're a realist, you know, if you're someone who is a no-nonsense kind of person, an objective kind of person, a rigorously rational kind of person, you make it your business to suspend belief. And there are people who seem to be on the hunt for the suspension of belief, who are always quicker than anyone else, who experience, as one of my Patreon supporters, whom I salute, said once, they seem to experience sometimes even a kind of jouissance in pointing out the elements of surviving belief in the behaviors and words of other people, and to say, look, that's not rational. We should really look at this differently. We all know that this kind of scientific / objective / materialistic attitude itself contains its own form of jouissance. But nevertheless, these would be the prototypical example of suspenders of belief. But there are also situations in life where we suspend disbelief, okay? When we read a book, when you read a novel, in order to enjoy the novel, in order to lose yourself in the story, you're not constantly be reminding yourself, well, you know, you're just literally engaging with ink blots on a piece of paper, and that this is a product that is meant to interact with certain neurons in your brain to create the impression that there is actually a story unfolding. You suspend your disbelief. You allow yourself to kind of lose yourself in the story. And you do that also with a movie, all right? To really enjoy a film, you forget at some point that you suspend. It's not a complete forgetfulness, but you suspend your disbelief. You also suspend your belief. You're never quite at a point where you literally believe that the movie is real and that if like the main character is about to be killed, you don't rush to the screen and try to stop the person, like say the gunman from firing the shot. Just as when you're reading a book, you don't try to tear the book in different pieces to prevent the scene you don't want to see happening. So you are suspending belief in a way, but you're also suspending disbelief in another way. Now, this is transitional space. That's this transitional space. So we already see that there are transitional experiences that we have every day for those of us who like to read books, who like to watch movies, who like to play games. Games often involve a dimension of make-believe, but also a suspension of belief, because you always know that you are playing a game. And what I'm saying is that for people, for the sake of their mental health, for the sake of their flourishing, for the sake of the expansion and health of their desire, okay? Depending on their type, there are certain ways of expanding transitional space. Instead of it being confined to certain activities, there is a way of making the world itself your transitional space. And this depends also when it comes to knowing how to go about making the world your transitional space. There are ways of doing this that depend on your type. And this is linked to your fantasies. And luckily now, we have figured the fantasies, at least in a preliminary fashion, of 8 different families of type, according to their dominant function. And we're going to be looking at more detail about that in the next video. So thank you guys for your support. Don't forget that you can also get my first book on the INFJ, which is called the Ecstatic Soul, and is all about the inner world of the INFJ, the world of thoughts, beliefs, disbeliefs, in fact, also, and the nature of INFJ consciousness. It's linked below as well. You should read both books if you want a deep understanding of this type. See you tomorrow, guys, and thank you.